Hello, folks. This is Top Gun here. There's been a few people who have been clamoring over my math, and there's been a couple possible changes to PulseX. I saw some FUD about PulseX and its changes, so that inspired me to get to it and release this video sooner than I had intended to. So please forgive me for the production quality, and please forgive me for not showing my face or having an avatar or anything funny on the go. I had not really prepared to make this an entertaining show. I just have a bunch of math to go over with you guys. So with the end of the PulseX sacrifice, we are now entering the delayed gratification stage as we all wait for PulseX to come, all wondering what's next, what's going to happen. So now with the PulseX sacrifice, so until Friday, very simply, if we go down here to, PulseX is designed to increase in value. How so? Well, where's my drawing tools? All right, right here we have PulseX only becomes more rare because 21% of all fees here are used to buy the price and burn the freshly bought PLX. So I had math on this model to show exactly how awesome this is. And that math is my crystal ball. So the crystal ball here, I'll give you guys a look. This is a giant sheet. All right, scrolling up to the top, I started as the what if game. All the fudders coming at Richard Hart going, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? And we know how much he loves to play the what if game, but I actually do enjoy the what if game because I love numbers. So I started making a sheet to understand what happens if certain changes to the liquidity pool happen. So over here, price after 1 month. This is how the actual math works. So in here, I left inputs so I could calculate either take away from the liquidity pool the amount of money that is coming in or take away the amount of coins that are going out or vice versa, like one and the other. So a liquidity pool, I'll explain that math in a moment. I made some base assumptions in this. So the base assumptions are all over here with different projects, different tickers. So I had to estimate some liquidity pool numbers. These are incorrect. I finally got on Uniswap analytics and found direct liquidity pools for the ones already in existence. So this math seemed so crazy over here, like, oh wow, all these numbers, what the heck is going on? That's what enticed me to come up with the crystal ball. The crystal ball was meant to be a simple interface. So hey, pick your ticker like PF. Oh, what did I do to my own sheet? Back. What happened here? Wow. Cut! I hit the wrong keys. What the heck? Cancel. There we go. Alright. Take. So anyways, what I was saying was, here we go. So you can put in a ticker with this. We go ahead and set it for PLSX, what it was originally designed for. Now we see how the numbers populate. Bullish. So I used Uniswap's business. Do you think we'll do 10% of the business that Uniswap does? You know, they do almost 2 billion volume a day, so their fee collection comes to a certain ratio. So I ran their business through Richard Hart's fee ratios to come up with how this works. So I can just scale it by how much of Uniswap do we do? Do we do 100% of what they did? 10%? Do we do 200% of what they did? How much did you invest? Figure the average person put in $1,000. But as you can see, if I change this number, everything updates. So $1,000. Set at 10% bullish. Wow. 8 million, almost $9 million is what that originally works. And then in here, I even have FUD. This is all the people that might sell their Pulse X for Pulse because they missed the Pulse X sacrifice. We can take that out, and you can see it jumps the price another $1 million, another 10%. It only hurt the price 10% for that 20% sell-off in month one. This was, the crystal ball. So you just put in the ticker, the percent, and the amount invested. And there you go. Here's a price chart showing with your bullishness what the price can do after 5 years and after 1 year. So this is all 1 year in the crystal ball. So that's where this is really cool. You set this to 100%. If we were able to do the same business as Uniswap, wow, that can't possibly be right. This has to be broken. And I did realize, like, the price, like, for that amount to be worth that amount, the actual price per token down here becomes $90 a token in just 1 year with this overinflation. So in 5 years, the price, oh wow, we've hit Ethereum territory guaranteed with just this function. This does not take into account outside market buy pressure. This does not take into account sell pressure. This only takes into account the buy pressure generated from the buyback and burn. So Ethereum's growth rate at 100% of what Uniswap does is baked in to PulseX's tokenomics. Wow, that is amazing. But that means, well, people will be buying outside of that. The price goes up so fast. And here you'll notice I have total minted, total removed, total supply outside of OA. So this, again, takes into the fact nobody sold. So what happens if people sell 3.4 trillion? Did I get that out? Yeah. So if that happens, we see how that drops the price 10% overall. But when we go down and, oh wait, this can't be updating correctly. I must have broken this. This one is. Alright, so you can see here the total removed and the total supply outside of OA. So we know the OA will never sell. So 17.2 trillion is what was pretty much achieved in the PulseX sacrifice according to PulseX lead. So yeah, that's how much more scarce it would become after 1 year with people selling. And as price comes in, scarcity increases. Like, so the problem with this model is when I crank it up to high blast, like no reason we can't even do more than Uniswap. Like, whoa, this can't possibly be happening to the price. Like, after 1 year, we're already into the hundreds. Like, that is beyond broken. That our 5 year, we totally kicked the crap out of Ethereum's price chart. But again, this creates an exclusionary project. With this, eventually everyone's going to pop and sell because it's just worth too much not to realize gains. The moment they sell in this system, well, you know, the OA here scoops everything off of that system with a buyback, especially if the liquidity pool is in the wrong direction. And it can just haul it off faster, which means eventually everyone gets bought out of this exclusionary club. No one can afford to get in, and only the buy pressure can economically even barely shift the price of it anymore. And in 15 years, easily, the OA would be the sole owner of the pie because of burning out and people selling because they have to realize that money somehow. So in this, it was almost too good. And my economic standpoint is outside investors getting people that aren't already in the project in to make money, to get little pieces of the pie out and make the pie bigger. This is an exclusionary kind of price ramp. Investors look for market corrections. They look for dips. They look for what they feel like is a buying opportunity before they put in, because they're always expecting that, hey, a market correction has to happen. With this model, PulseX wouldn't necessarily have had a market correction. So I do some hex trade or TA as well. This is a lot of noise going on here. But like right here, we have a run up. And now this whole section is a market correction. Yes, the people who are invested are upset by this, but the people who aren't in, this is a buying opportunity. For me, I bought here and I bought here. I managed to take advantage of these dips and feel very good about it for getting into the project. So dips are important to investors. And with the project the way it was, there wouldn't be any dips. So now what changes did actually happen to PulseX that everyone is concerned about. I should probably pull up a screenshot. Let's see if I can find this here on Richard Hart's Twitter. Richard Hart Win, that's his Twitter account. I don't have Twitter, as you guys can tell. Let's see here. 13 hours ago. Something. Alright. Where was it? I'm looking for February 25th. Keep going. Man, he posts a lot. Alright. I think we're starting to get into some of the staking protocols. Alright. So this is all Pulse Chain, PulseX. Maybe I should even look at some of this because there's more information here than I had originally seen. I can figure some more stuff out. Alright. So what hit? I found it. This is what hit everybody and really got them thinking and concerned here. So the changes to PulseX as it stands. What is going on? We all knew there'd be a staking function for PulseX. And if we didn't, yeah, there's going to be a staking function. Originally, we were thinking it was going to be stake your PulseX and receive the incentive token. And that's exactly what this basically says up here. If the PulseX incentive token is XPLX. But when you read here, by holding the XPLX, so by holding the incentive token, now the incentive token you can stake to receive the PulseX that's supposed to be in the burn pool. So people are upset that, hey, you were going to burn 21% of all the fees you collect, and now you're giving that back to people who stake the incentive token? Is that how this is working? So you can stake your PulseX for some incentive token, you can provide liquidity for the incentive token, and then you can stake your incentive token for PulseX. Either way, what this indicates is that you can stake your PulseX and get into this pool. So if this is true, I was really upset. I'm like, you promised this price growth, you promised this burn rate, but hey, no expectation of the work of others. He didn't promise anything. Like, I'm just, hey, very excited about his ideas, his projects, and I was really angry Friday morning. And some other people were kind of upset, like, this deflation, it's not deflationary anymore. Well, this isn't true, because in here, he doesn't say how much of the buyback pool will go to the stakers. So not 100% of the buyback has to go to the stakers. So this is maybe just a middle ground. So there's a scenario that, hey, scenario one, the devs, they're joking around, or they even got a dyslexic moment like I did about the PLSX and XPLSX. Like, that's a mouthful. Maybe they just put things around backwards a little bit, and maybe this isn't exactly what Richard Hart was intending when he's like, hey guys, work on this, because he did say, I haven't even reviewed this. So, oh yeah, it says that rate. See, this is convenient. I have not, screenshots my devs had sent me. I have not reviewed them yet. Sacrifice ends in 12 hours. Don't miss it. Sacrifice is done. So, in this, there's still room for changes. This may be incorrect. So, I saw someone else's video, and I agree with them that there are three scenarios. One, the buyback will remain intact. This is just a test. They're playing with some ideas. He thought it was cool, but he won't end up rolling with it. So it's not an official change. Nothing about my crystal ball got broken. It is still an insane price-generating tool. Now, option two, the entire buy pool is now up for staking, which means technically it's not inflationary or deflationary. If that entire buy pool is now available to stakers, then it's up to the stakers entirely to keep it off the market, to have their diamond hands. And so it's not actually burnt. It's up to them about when they want to release and take some of their profits. So this creates more of an interesting dynamic, but it removes the idea of deflation entirely. And Richard Hart usually does the things he says he's going to do. So I myself am a believer that it will be part will still go to true burn and part will go to the stakers to see how long they can keep it off the market. So I did some math updates based on this information. I am not willing, because of the back and forth here, to talk about what you stake for what, because the staking protocols aren't clear enough to me yet. I haven't done enough research. That's not where I do my math. So my math comes over to here, where now I have the PulseX stake with buyback. So I had to make some adjustments to my math model. There you see this new column down the center here. This allows me to keep track of the scarcity of tokens, what's being bought off the system in tokens, and then what could possibly be going back to the system in tokens. So how did I account for that in my math? Over here, luckily I've got a very good disclaimer. Put the amount you want in the buy and look and see what it's worth in 1 year. This is only in theory. This is not financial advice. Wow, alright. Thank you for cutting off my disclaimer. There we go. This is not financial advice. So yeah, you can see there's a lot more inputs I had to add for all of this staking. We still have the same basic functions. $1,000. PLSX. We'll switch that back to 10%. We'll keep that there as a ticker. You can see that price is a lot less of an X with the setup that I have. So how do I account for buy pressure in the system when the stakers are in control? All right, I had to do some more math. So some more assumptions were then required. So one, where I have the amount the OA stakes in percentage, I realized that right away, like, there's two ways he could do a true burn. One, he could stake himself and skim some out of it that way and then burn it. Or two, he just program in, hey, this percentage gets burned. So since I don't know what he's doing, I thought, hey, I will put it in this way and play with it potentially the way he could. So this allows me to change how much of the pool is being pulled out. And even in this means if we set this to 100% of his stash, if he did it this way as a ratio, well, even if he does 100% of his portion staked, he holds 90% of the tokens. That means that 10% of the buyback pool would be what's left going to the other people that stake. I like this math and mechanics, but it's in the FUD of, hey, we're looking at possibly almost no burn. Well, let's go in that direction. So I set this 0.01% of his stash. What does that do to the math? Well, you can't even see it on here. That's what it does to the math. So let's change this a little bit because I don't want to change those fields. We'll make it 0.1% of his entire bag. Wow, that means, see over here, we've got, that just pops up where you can see overall, 1% is what the OA is taking out of the buyback pool in this, and 99% is what other people could potentially do if they stake. It would go to the stakers. So, like, I've been playing around with the math a bunch of different ways. The basic point is that, hey, that's it, so not much goes to true burn. So if 21% was going to true burn, now 0.21% is going to true burn. And 20.7%, that's going to stakers. That's what this model says right now. So now, I have other things in here. So I threw in, what's the FUD level you want? You remember when I commented on the first month, how many people are going to want to trade out and dip the price in their first month? Well, now you can set that. 20% of the stackers want to do it. That changes the number. 10% of the people that sacked want to do it. Heck, 50% of the people that sacked want to do it. And as you can see, that takes it into account now. But the price gets so ridiculously skewed, it's not even worth discussing. So yeah, the ratio, just, we're not even going to worry about that. We're going to then go ahead and set this to about 10%. Like, that's what I feel is probably the people that are waiting to get in. So that adds some extra tokens to the market to begin with to kick off this pool as everyone's switching out for PulseX. Now, what is the sell rate decrease compounded? All right, I have a theory. I have a basic theory that as this system goes, people will less and less people will sell. So more and more you will be rewarded with the diamond hands. Well, how do you calculate how many less people are going to sell? Well, I decided the bonding curve in the PulseX SAC was a very nice exponential growth curve, so that could show the exponential decrease in sellers as people are holding on to their assets because they can now realize their gains without losing their PulseX because of the staking. So with this, I set it to 5% a month decrease in sellers. Now, how do you even know what kind of sellers you're going to start with? Well, 100%? Not everybody's going to sell their PulseX. That's ridiculous. All right. Well, what about 50%? Would half the people be trying to sell their PulseX? Overall, like, hey, let's look at it this way. So the way I see it, half of the sacrifice pool, half that $1 billion raised, yeah, let's have a look at that. Half that $1 billion raised. You still on there? You still on there? Yes, you are. Oh, look, half of the entire $1 billion raised was Hex. All right, so half the $1 billion raised was Hex. That's a good like half of the tokens are held by Hex holders. We know they know how to hold. I know how to hold, so that we know how not to sell. So that's where the other 50%, though, we don't know if they know how to hold and how to not sell. So 50%. Now, in this, I'll even go as far as, hey, Hex has been taking a beating since its all-time high. So maybe there's some extra people looking to realize gains. We'll put it at 60%. Now you understand why, okay, 5% less sellers every month because more and more people are holding it. The OA taking roughly 1% of the buy pool for true burn, not a lot of it. A lot of people selling off, and a big trade at the beginning. And then how many of the people that even hold PulseX are going to stake? Well, I haven't really worked into the math. It doesn't matter what I set this. It won't actually change the numbers that are on here. This is for another part of math I was worrying about. So we're not going to look at that at the moment. Because then I would add underneath the effective amount and the amount, I would have did you stake and what it would be worth if you staked. I haven't gotten there. So with all of these settings, you can see, well, wow, in a year, it's now only done a 40x since my effective amount invested. Because if you invested after the bonding curve started going up, you have an effective number. That's not, whatever you invested isn't what you really invested on this model. I'm using the effective number from the PulseX lead. So if you're curious about what your effective amount invested was, go to pulsexlead.com. And then once this model hits the internet so you can play with it, you can then put your effective amount in there and test out some numbers. So this model now accounts for selling on the market, basically. Out of all the people that stake, all that stuff that they staked, how much is going back to the market and how much is staying off the market. And that's how this math runs. So now we're down to, just a 40x in the first year. But what about after 5 years? And as you can see, I finished the model on this side. I have actually set up the 5-year and the, token supply distribution. So you can see the first year we removed 2 trillion tokens. But after that, not a whole lot get removed from actual supply because this is keeping track of just what's true burnt. So now 5 years, oh, whoa, $1,000 could be worth 100 million? Wow, all right. Now 5-year forecast is looking pretty good on this. And this is with all of those numbers changed for the utmost conservative. This is still only doing 10% of the business that Uniswap did. Now you see how my graph does a wibble wobble. You see these plateaus that are in here now. This is the generated effect because of the coins that can hit the market after the buyback happens. Because basically, this is arced out a little nicer, but when the buy happens, like I haven't figured out how to change the graph to show it, but when the buy happens, boom, the price goes directly up. And then really as people sell, the price will come down, and then boom, buy happens, the price goes up. So the graph will look a little more like that, but that's where, forget that for a moment. We're just going to go back up to this one. It shows a little better the back and forth. These are mini market corrections in between every buyback. With these market corrections, my theory of going back to Hex, buying opportunities, it's on a discount. This is how traders and investors feel and think. They use these TA analysis, they read the tickers, they do the MACD to see where the pressure's at, they read the RSI. I even like reading the RSI divergence, but all of it went to crap as soon as the market started crashing. And you know what? I'll even come back and talk about that a little bit. But going back to here, yeah, you can see what happens with the new math is it creates buying opportunities, which means in here, well, I don't have any, like I have the sell effect on the system. I have not taken into account what happens to the price when other people come from outside to buy it because they're excited that it seems to only go up. No matter what you do to PulseX's price, the pumpamental built into the token economics says price go up. Price must go up. Price will go up. Question is when? When will I become a millionaire? Depending on how you set the settings, figures out when you get to a millionaire. So with this, let's take this out of the FUD range. Let's take it into reasonable. 50% of Uniswap, amount traded for Pulse. Yeah, so 10%, let's take that down to 5%. I really don't think it's going to be as big as people thought. Now, the 60%, you know what, let's say a lot of people are excited and want to hold this. We'll drop it to 40% of people are looking to sell and get in the first year. So we're still going to keep the bonding curve at 5% less sellers per month. The OA True Burn, let's ramp it up. We'll make it a 10% burn. This feels a little more reasonable. So if they staked 1% of their entire pool, you see we'd have 11% burn, 89% going to the stakers of the pool. All right, we like this ratio. We like it. Now, bullish, that's where I want to change. We're going to take this up to 50% of the business that Uniswap does. How soon will I become a millionaire? 1 year. 1 year. This does a 1000x. 1 year with these settings. The price chart, to me, looks really healthy because that's 50 cents it starts at. You're not reading all the sub-cent fractions that are going on at the bottom of this chart. But you can see as it starts to take off towards the end of the year, wham. And this, again, does not include the outside buyer pressure, which will probably make it grow faster. And also, 5-year forecast. Wait, is that $1 billion? Is that $2 billion with just these settings? Wow. PulseX could be impressive. What if we change these settings like, hey, there's no reason that we can't do the same business that Uniswap does on Ethereum? Ooh, this $1,000 investment is starting to look even better and better. Oh, I will go over my starting price estimation and some of my math in a moment. But we scroll down, we're up to, we're up to $5 a coin at the end here of that period. Almost. So going down. We're into the $1,000 in 5 years. We're back to the Ethereum territory here, and your $1,000 could actually be worth $10 billion theoretically by just these numbers with just the tokenomics. This does not take into account outside market buy pressure, and it doesn't take into account the popping pressure of people going, wait, my $1,000 investment's worth $10 billion. I want a mega yacht. I gotta sell. So this does not take into the account of external buy and sell as the network grows. This is not an actual prediction of the future. This is an example of how the tokenomics work. So you're like, how can you possibly know all this with the math? All right. So with liquidity pools, you have some simple math. You've got X Then you multiply it by y, and that will equal k. So what the heck are people talking about? Oh yeah, I just want an equal sign. Yeah, that's all right. I want the equal sign. I want the equal sign, Excel. All right, what if I put the equal in brackets? Will you let me have it then? I just want it on the paper. Thank you. Equals k. All right, so yeah, x times y equals k. Well, that means nothing to me, guy. Like, all right, well, let me put it in another way. Let's say money times tokens equals a constant. This constant cannot change unless people add liquidity or take liquidity. As you trade against the pool, K must remain constant. This means if you have 10,000 tokens or $10,000 paired with 10,000 coins, well, all right, what do we do here? K. This must equal this one times this one. That is now our K value. Okay, so K cannot shift as you add and take away from the pool. Also, with this formula, when you take X and you divide it by Y, that will equal, all right, so that'll equal the price. All right, so how do we do that? We take X, the money, we divide it by the number of tokens. The price is $1. We are starting to see the math build here. Okay, so this is nice and simple. But now we got tokens, we got money. Someone comes along and they decide they want to spend $10,000 because the price looks really good. This is where slippage happens. So now the actual value of the money in the liquidity pool, wow, I hit auto sum. I thought it would just show this. All right, I prefer working in actual Excel. Sum this one and this one. Oh, wow. All right, you know what? Equals this one plus this one. I am not going to fight with Google Sheets today. All right, so the liquidity pool, if you add 10,000, now equals 20,000. But what happens over here? You can only half the pool. So 5,000 can come out, which means equals this one. Oh, now you want to do an auto select for me. Minus that one. So now we have 20,000 to 5,000. What does that do to the price? Remember, we take the money and we divide it by the number of tokens. Well, golly gee williker. That is how we get to $4 a token right there. See? So meanwhile, in here, what was the price paid for this? This equals this one, again, divided by this one. $2. This is where slippage comes in. So if the liquidity pool is too small, all right, and you come into it, well, hey, it was $1 for the coin. That looks tempting, so I try to buy $1, and I end up paying $2 a coin because of slippage. But now, once I'm done my purchase, the price to all the new people says $4. So obviously the slippage gets a lot lower if you use smaller numbers, like, oh, I only had $10. Well, now you've only affected it like by fractions of a percent. Well, now you're only going to affect the other side by fractions of a percent. Your slippage is going to be nominal. That's the slippage you're used to seeing, and why you hear less slippage is better. There will be so much liquidity in PulseX, it will cut down on this basic slippage. So this is where my math starts. So then I figure out what the liquidity pool sizes actually are. And it's like, all right, so the rough liquidity in hex, 20 million to 80 million. This was when the price was 20 cents, I believe. So again, we will run this and we'll show you what K looks like with these values. So This equals, oh, look at that, you're finally getting it. 25 cents is what that is actually set to. This will equal, that is the K value that is set to. So that is an incorrect K value. This was just me wanting to show, yeah, I actually have to change that. This should have been 100 million. There. That is closer to the hex K value. So now you see the amount of money paired to the amount of tokens and a constant. So when you come and you do a $10,000 buy, that's why you hardly take any slippage. So now with Excel, I was able to link a liquidity pool and then simulate the buy to it and then use the constant because it never changes and the price to come back and derive the tokens and the values. And then I rinse and I repeat. That's the what if game. So all of that math basically is here to explain what's going on in this junk over here. Tokens, value, K, price. That is how I run my math. These other inputs are great. Okay, you're starting to get an understanding of it, hopefully, or you're crossing your eyes going, man, you're trying to kill me? My brains are bleeding out of my ears. Well, I never said this was going to be simplified. I will be doing simplified videos at some other point, but for right now, I am just looking at the PulseX math. So, in here, you can see how I've estimated a few pools, but I have hex actually figured out. So do I know what the PulseX liquidity pool is going to be? No. But I do know that Richard Hart likes small liquidity pools, and I do know that there's no reason it would be bigger than hex to start if he likes small liquidity pools. So I used hex's liquidity pool size for PulseX. And then I set it to a price of 0.2 of a cent. Why did I do that? Well, in that, we have Ethereum's true price and token ratio as everything is set for their liquidity pool size. So that allowed me to do PulseX's liquidity pool. And you can see what roughly the true value of the network is at launch. So if Ethereum were launched and Hex was at parity in price on Pulse Chain and Ethereum, this would have to be the price of Pulse if Hex were equal, because that would make the value inside of the new Pulse Chain equal. So anywhere between 1/10 of a cent to 0.2 of a cent is where I feel the price would launch. 1/10 of the cent would say the network starts with 40% of the potential value that is in Ethereum, and that doesn't seem right to me. And it's really hard to move liquidity pools. I've had some good discussions on why the 1/10 of a cent, it at least recognizes the value that all the sacrificers put in, and you can't buy it cheaper on the market than you did for sacrifice if it's at 1/10 of a cent. But if we go any more than 2.3 of a cent higher, well, then we have more value than what's in Ethereum. So the price range should be between 1/10 of a cent and 23/100 of a cent. So I set it to 0.2 of a cent. So it'll be at a little bit of a discount from Ethereum, but it will be closer to parity and still recognize the PulseX sacrificers. So I set it to that price with a liquidity pool, the size, see the K constant. I didn't shift K. These numbers multiply and still equal the same number. The liquidity pool is balanced. So this is what allowed me to make my assumptions, to have a starting price, to put my bullishness, and to build different projects here. So I will be looking at other projects, obviously, with this model as I go. There is some theoretical math I'm sure people will be set on, like ignore my test theory math. I was trying to figure out how to balance liquidity pools. So basically, hey, if there's a huge buy, like this much on V3, what does it do to the values? Oh, and I can actually track how one pool gets bought up and then sold off to go buy up in the other pool. That was because I wanted to see pool interactions, because I plan to be linking projects to see how they interact. And then a teeter-totter experiment. This is where I figured out how I could actually use, like, see, I've used a square root function up here, and Here, I have a whole bunch of other math going. This is where I actually made the liquidity pool balance like a teeter-totter. So all I have to do is change the price in association with K, and it automatically generates the liquidity pool on either side. So I have a bunch of math going on here. So I wanted to explain, like, there's madness on this sheet. All these fields have different reasons, but they all come to the crystal ball to give you this idea of what the math does. So when I set it to this, when the OA takes 10% for true burn, I feel like this is the best possible model for us. And this feels like the best math where it's going to give the most chances for people to still get in and buy because of the people that are selling what they're holding. So 90% of the burn pool, sure, go to the stakers. 10%, keep that for true burn. I like that math. Now, if we shift that, so we want to change the staker proportions here. Well, all right. What happens if we ramp this up to 10%? What is the math on the tokens here? Well, that's almost a 50-50 split now. If he this is how if he staked to do this. I could just set the true burn rate, but I left more variables in here because the what if game. I am accounting for every circumstance possible in my math. And it's like a weather prediction model, guys. I am not a financial advisor. You ever been going, oh, the weatherman said it's going to be great and sunny, let's go have a picnic, and then you get rained on? So do not take this as investing advice. But if you have invested and you want to see some speculation, since the sacrifice period is closed, well, hey, I would love to show the speculation. So yeah, this takes it to closer to a 50-50 split. And you can see that makes what it does to our price range. You see what it does to the price graph, where maybe this is even more healthy with the dips not being so extremely low. Like this is more what I was drawing in the first place. And you can see the number of tokens that are being removed. The scarcity doesn't happen that fast. Because once this number down here, total supply outside OA, hits 0, no one else is buying in ever again. The project's done, and Richard Hart is the sole owner of a very big pie. So the longer that he can delay the inflation, the longer the project does what it's supposed to. So that's where 15 years with the original math, and I'm like, you're the sole owner of a pie. This way, we look at the 5-year, and we've only taken 1 trillion off in 5 years. Wow, that is some sustainability. That's almost 100 years of price growth by deflationary methods. So yeah, this does mean $11 billion for a $1,000 investment after the 5-year forecast, because this is a weather forecast. People could pop and go, my God, I well shock, I'm too rich, this can't be real, they could sell out. The sell rates at any point can market correct because of external pressure. This only explains what happens with the internal tokenomics. I mean, you never know. Somebody could come along and make crypto somehow illegal. No, I don't think it's possible. But the point is, everyone can have fear that they need to sell their tokens. Or the world's ending, an asteroid's coming, and everyone needs to buy toilet paper because it's a currency in an apocalypse. Ooh, toilet paper, I need that. I don't need crypto anymore. The world's ending. So we sell our crypto. And then obviously the asteroid misses, and they're all laughed at. But the point is, market corrections come from all sorts of areas. Now we will go into hex analysis with this, because let's take away the garbage here. So this is the price chart for hex. This is how it's been going. And what I find really interesting was I was doing investments Wednesday night when the thing happened. With the leader of that country who wants to do the peacekeeping, I keep this piece, I keep that piece. So with this going on, I noticed immediately a huge dip on Wednesday night when I didn't even know about the news. I watched Ethereum going down, I watched Bitcoin going down, I watched Hex going down. As you can see, these are the tickers I like. I have Bitcoin, I have Ethereum, I have Hex on my ticker list. I watch these because I want to know what the market's doing. So watching these tickers to try and figure out what the market's doing, I noticed something where I had indicated earlier that Bitcoin and Ethereum have correlated with the market. So as the market crashes, they're crashing. This may bring some FUD for a moment. But here's ETH USD. So on this chart, we're going to have to do some changing. You see how as I change, it changes things around. But you're going to notice something start to right there. Right there. As soon as we hit the end of the year, as you can see, the price would go down in Hex, the price would go up in Ether. Price would go down in Ether, price would go up in Hex. Like, hey guys, we are not in sync here. Then, when this happened as of the new year, finally all the news about the Fed and everything else, people withdrawing their investments, we have seen correlation in the market. So Hex, even with its safety cushion of 80% in USD is suffering. Like, this is suffering everywhere. It's not just Ethereum that's getting hit. So with this correlation, all right, this is why the price is jumping. Well, now you're saying, Hex is doomed. I'm staked. What do? I have to sell it all. No. Because of my liquidity pool math, I figured out something very wonderful. The liquidity of Hex and the E-Hex, will be able to be paired with the P-Hex. When you do lock things together in liquidity pools, their price do move together. See? Like, this is what happens. So if we lock enough P-Hex in with enough E-Hex, the value that is entering the Pulse chain network will prop this Hex up through the bad market correction. I assume that's going to happen. So I believe Hex, E-Hex, and P-Hex will hit a dollar parity before the end of the year because of Pulse Chain's launch. So hold on to your hats, be prepared. I think there will be more buying opportunities until Pulse Chain launches. As soon as Pulse Chain launches, then we will see the changes in the price of Hex, and we will see the chart start going up for our next pump. Because Hex does love to repeat history, and it will be coming for another ramp up. Bitcoin also did a huge market correction after its first 2 years. You know what else did too? Ethereum. That is normal, but we are getting around that normal market correction by launching a new project and pairing it. So this will be really, really good for us. So the correlation, I'm not at all worried about that because we will break out of that correlation once Pulse Chain launches. So between now and then, I am not going to say the price of Hex looks great. I might have bought down at this dip, and I might have bought in at this dip because it looks good to me. There's no reason it can't go lower before it comes back up. But this is where I believe this is a great dollar average cost opportunity if you're really, really worried about Hex as an asset, since the PulseX sacrifice is over and we've got nothing else to play with, nowhere else that you maybe want to put the powder in your keg. But this is my take on Hex and PulseX. So the reason, again, I go back to my stake where I was talking about my theoretical math, where I proved how one liquidity pool linked to another liquidity pool affect each other. Oh, just a little bit. It was basic math. It's not accurate, but it at least shows the connection. So if the liquidity pair between Hex and Hex are big enough, and there's a liquidity pair between Hex and PulseX, as PulseX goes up, it will bring the price of P-Hex up. The bigger the liquidity pool, the more value will be distributed between both assets. And conversely, when E-Hex is linked to P-Hex, you will see the same value distribution. So, I mean, I'm hoping for liquidity pool pair sizes that maybe just siphon off 10% of PulseX's value and put it into the Hex system. Because the Hex system, the Hex coin is wonderful, and it should be highlighting right now, especially in times of deep market pressure where, oh, we don't know what's going to happen next. Will there be a war? Will there not? Everyone's afraid. Well, Hex is a great investment. It doesn't look like it right now because it's correlated to the market. In the short term, it's not looking tempting. How do we get people to smarten up and buy something that will reward them? We link its value to PulseX. I know with my PulseX tokens what pools I'll be incentivizing, and I know what liquidity I'll be providing. So the actual staking, how we're actually going to do the staking for PulseX, I have no clue. I need to do more research on it. I wanted to go over the math and show why the original project was great, but I think it was too exclusionary. And the change is great, But having 0% actually truly burnt, that just, he did say it would be deflationary, and it's not really deflationary if he lets the entire community decide how much they're holding. Like, the idea of deflationary is it's put into a dumpster and burn. The community, it's how long can they hold until they finally cave from the dollar signs. That is not true deflation. So it's a kind of delayed deflation, or deflation is temporary. So true deflation and temporary deflation, those are the combination I think works best. So I will even say, RH, if you're watching this video, Top Gun, you are welcome to my math. You can find me on Telegram. I will share it with you as much as you want if you're looking at what ratios you're going to set, because you haven't decided yet. Hell, I think I might have shared this with a few people you work with. So by all means, if for any reason you're watching this, have at her. If this helps you plan this out, that is great. I will myself will be doing more research at this point before I release another video to actually look at what the staking feature does, how you stake your incentive token, and how you stake your PulseX. But in the meantime, I'm very happy that I bought more Hex at this point. That's just me. I'm not a financial advisor. And overall, the RSI is oversold. The MACD is underpressurized. We are in pump territory, but I have seen this before, and I've watched it go the opposite direction. The TA analysis has gone to crap these last 2 months because of everything going on in the market. It's too unpredictable. The market says this should be the next thing, but because of the news and everything happening outside, it changes it. I love Hex, so I bought it. I don't care if it goes down. I want to participate in the liquidity pools. Hell, if it goes down, I'm just going to buy more. So yeah, this is the basic idea of how I start my liquidity pool math at its most basic essence. This is what it turned into after a 6-hour argument with Red Bulls and Excel, and this is what it has turned into after weeks. This is a almost alphabet wide and almost 200 deep row spreadsheet of math. So I don't expect to bore you anymore with this. I hope that if you are a nerd, your head has stayed intact and it doesn't look like the Scanners movie and your head hasn't exploded. Go ah! And if you are a person that all of this dry math, I hope you're not asleep. And if you are, hey, you are welcome to use this video as a bedtime sleeping aid anytime you want. I will be releasing more videos. Hopefully I can make them a little more entertaining. Thank you for watching Top Gun's math education and my thoughts on the changes to the PulseX ecosystem. We'll have to wait and see what happens next. More information from Richard Hart will follow while we continue the delayed gratification phase. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.